All right, so when I'm looking at new homes with clients, there's a couple different things that I catch my eye that I want to inspect when I'm walking through a house. And so this house is at framing, so I'm going to talk about some of those things in this video today. And the very first one is this sheathing. Now, a really popular sheathing is zip system. This is not that. This is it's a vapor barrier, and its job is to keep moisture away from the house. So if anything rains or you get moisture inside the walls, it carries this down to the bottom of the wall and keeps what's inside dry. Now, this is a thinner barrier system. It's just like basically compressed cardboard with like a plastic veneer on top, and it will do its job of keeping water out, but it's not structural. And so when I say structural, what I mean is that it actually adds strength to the studs. So a structural barrier, something like zip system, it is more expensive, but when you attach that to the framing, it's gonna make it more rigid because the zip system is a thick OSB product. So from the back side, you can tap it. I don't know if you can hear it, but you can tell it's really pretty thin. Whereas an OSB type product is gonna be like a parka board that's like, decently thick. It's gonna stiffen that wall. Whereas this is just really kind of cardboard, and it keeps the moisture off, but it doesn't increase the structural strength of the actual house itself. So a wall is effectively kind of a sandwich. On the outside, you've got the covering or the veneer. Most houses around Texas are something like hardy plank or brick or stone. And then behind that, you'd have the vapor barrier or something like zip system. Then behind that, you would have the studs. And then in between the studs, you're gonna have the insulation, and all of the plumbing and electrical is gonna run between the studs. And then on top of that, you're gonna have drywall. And sometimes you'll have something in between in wet areas. Okay, so on the plumbing side of things, I'm looking at both water supply lines and the drain lines. The drain lines are a little less important because water goes away, but water coming into the house is gonna come in through a feed line. And so these are feed lines, and you can tell because they're typically what we call PEX, right? It's like this plastic synthetic material, right? In older homes, you'll see copper. These, when you nick them with nails, are the most likely to cause like a really slow leak. So if you put all the drywall up and you hang a nail or hang a painting or something on the other side and it nicks one of these, then that causes a slow leak. I'm looking for insulation to see if they insulated the feeder lines. Here, these guys are insulated, which is good, both the cold and the hot. You'll notice this goes to the shower head. It's not insulated. Doesn't really have to be because most of the time the shower's off. Right, so those are a couple of things I'm looking for on the plumbing feed lines. These guys are probably for a sink, and this is actually a nice little detail here. They've got these little shutoff valves. So they're gonna be inside the drywall, but if you knock these things open, you can use these to turn off the water supply, which is nice. And they may have something in here that allows access without going through the drywall. I don't know, because we're not there yet. But these are nice because they can save you from having to shut the water off somewhere else, so you can locally fix the problem. Okay, another thing I want to look at is the water heater. It's sitting outside. It's about the size of a water heater. This is the gas line that's going in to feed this guy, so it's heated with gas instead of electricity, which is good because if you don't have power, you still have gas. So as long as this thing ignites, it'll still run when it's cold outside. There's a big caveat because like if it requires an electrical spark and you don't have electricity, then maybe not. But anyway, it is what it is. All these lines are insulated, which is nice to see, right? Now, if this were a tanked water heater, then it would be in the garage, typically, and sometimes you'll see it in the attic. Now, if it's in the attic, some pros to that are you've got water pressure at the top of the house, kind of like a little mini water tower, and that water pressure feeds all your fixtures really well. The downside to that is if that tank leaks or has a problem, then the water comes into the house, and that can cause a giant mess. So I had a client ask me, well, hey, could we just move the water heater to the garage? Like, well, maybe, but all of the plumbing is meant to go to that water heater in the attic. And a cheaper solution is just to have a drain pan that is piped to the outside. And we look at a lot of inspection reports, and it's very common to have a drain pan for a water heater, but it doesn't go anywhere. So if that drain pan overflows, it just spills into the rest of the house. So a much cheaper solution is drain pan with a pipe outside. Okay, so the next thing is drain lines. Now, everyone loves the systems that make it all go away. That's these guys. They're the big ones, right? Whereas these are the feed lines. This is what makes all the waste go outside. So here, these are generally put together pretty well. You can look for the seams and make sure that these guys haven't gone anywhere. But usually the main problem that we see in new builds is that construction debris will get into these guys. So this is the toilet, and they've got something kind of jamming this up to keep debris from getting in there, which is a good sign. But by the time you're all said and done, you never know what you're gonna find in there. We found paint rags, construction debris, bits of drywall and wood and nails and all sorts of fun stuff that get into that drain line. So we always suggest, if you're getting a new build, to have the drain line scoped. Even though it's brand new, I've actually seen just as much weird stuff show up in a brand new build drain line as I have a rebuild or a resale. So definitely want to check that out and make sure you're good to go all the way to the street. Another thing that's really important is drainage. So this property is on a little bit of a slope. It's not bad, but actually a little slope can be good because it means that water runs away from the house, but it's gonna pile up against one house, at least downstream. So here, the water's gonna go this way. So I just wanna make sure that I ask myself, where is it gonna collect? So I would be worried about it collecting on the far side of the house. Now, if you look between the houses, this has a little bit of sloping between the houses. What I would love to see is the dirt look like this, right? And when you go into neighborhoods, in many cases, you'll see each house is kind of up on its own little berm, right? And the house will sit up here so that as the water comes off, it comes down to the sides and then it drains out toward the street. So this one isn't as sloped as I would like. It's not necessarily like the death knell of the house, but I just want to know, where is the water going to go? Because foundations move in Texas because one side gets wetter than the other. Gutters can help, and French drains can also, is really kind of like the cherry on top. But I always want to know, like, hey, in 5-10 years from now, where's that water going to pile up and how can I mitigate it? Okay, here's another quick little thing. The subfloor on the second floor is often 3/8 inch thick. That's a mouthful. A ½ inch, in my opinion, is better. Of course, it costs more, but it makes the floor a lot more stable and less kind of wobbly. So I always come up and look for how thick is that subfloor on the second floor. ½ inch is better than 3/8. 3/8 isn't the end of the world, but you might get a couple more creaks and bends than you would otherwise. So another thing that I want to look at is the attic. Now, I can't quite get up into the attic in this one because we're still in framing stage, and I don't want to get up there without proper subflooring. But one of the things I look for is a radiant barrier shield. And this is like an aluminum looking coating that goes on the back side of the wood that's on top of the rafters but is beneath the roof shingles. And so if you have that barrier, it means it's going to radiate more heat and keep your house a little bit cooler and more energy efficient. There are plenty of houses that don't have it. It's not the end of the world. It's not like, oh, I shouldn't buy the house because it doesn't have it. It's just like a nice to have that's going to save you a little bit of money on your utility bills. Okay, another important part of the attic as well as the walls is the insulation. Now, this house is too early for insulation, but I want to look for 13 or 14 inches of blow-in insulation. And blow-in is kind of like that particulate stuff that gets literally blown in. It's real fluffy. It doesn't come in sheets. It's just loose insulation. Now, that stuff can work really well. There's also spray foam insulation, which can stick to the corners and make a really, really good seal. It has its pros and cons too. I'm not gonna get into those differences on this video, but I just wanna make sure that yes, there's insulation up there and it hasn't compressed over time, which happens in older houses. And we can see back here, this is between the studs. This is where insulation is gonna go. If you're walking through a house, normally you're not gonna be able to see this. You're not gonna know what's back there. You do get a R value when you sell the house. So sometimes you might know exactly what it was at the time. One of the most popular insulation types is just what they call batt insulation, and it's just like the rolled in pink stuff that's been used forever. It's perfectly good. It's got pros and cons like everything else. I like rock wool is a little bit better, more of an upgrade. And then you can also use spray foam too. But when you spray foam these, the foams do sometimes tend to shrink a little bit. And when they shrink, you will get a little bit of an insulation gap between the spray foam and the studs sometimes, or in some places. Okay, here's another little detail that I like to see. Between the slab and the base plate, which is just the bottom board of the frame, there's this little piece of fabric. It's kind of like a foam fabric that you can put between those two. And what that does is it helps keep pests from entering the home. And then for the coup de grace, there's a little bit of foam they put in the corner. You can only see this on the exterior of the home. You don't need it on the inside of the home. But the 1-2 punch of those really make sure that you're not going to get any pest intrusions. And if you're really good, you do this line on the outside too. Okay, there are 1,000 things to do when building a house, and usually only a handful of them go wrong, but you want to know what those are. So thanks for watching. If you like what you're hearing and you want to know more, you can feel free to contact me with all the information below. Love to see you sometime soon. Catch you later.